Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm just going to talk about a game that I actually find really interesting, and I kind of just want to delve into it. So I'm going to talk today about Warcraft 3. So let's take a look at Warcraft 3, a 2002 fantasy real-time strategy game. For some reason, I just find this game really interesting. Like others of its genre, this game is about strategically gathering resources, managing buildings and upgrades, creating units, and using them to attack or defend. This game introduces 4 races that can be played: the humans, the orcs, the night elves, and the undead. Each one of these races has its own buildings, units, ways to accumulate resources, and most importantly, heroes. Taking a look at the combat, we can see that each team encourages you to build a variety of units for your army. The orcs have tanky brutes, high damaging spear throwers, and shamans that can buff the whole team. The undead has the swarm of ghouls that can overwhelm any team, with some beefy range and necromancers that can raise the dead. The outcome of any combat encounter comes down to how you organize your team. This creates a lot of strategy when creating troops that you don't often see in other RTS games like Age of Empires. There's a real rock, paper, scissors design to this combat. A swarm of ghouls with the Dreadlord as a leader can quickly take down any small-scale team. But if you are the Night Elves with a strong group of Huntresses, or an enemy hero that has a strong AoE attack, taking down these large groups are much easier. You could be the humans and spam riflemen with high damage and range, but there are also units like footmen and the Night Elves archers who can resist their attacks and fight back. All this combined with the wonderful food system that limits the amount of troops that can be produced and inflicting punishment for going over a certain limit, you really have a sense here that every unit matters, and learning to build a good team that takes advantage of a wide skill set will often be the deciding factor in who wins any battle. But then there are heroes. This is the big factor in this game. Each team has a group of 4 heroes that can be picked for at the start, and they are all game changers. Each one of them has a unique set of spells that can be the deciding factor in any encounter. These heroes need to be leveled up, forcing you into conflicts for experience, rewarding players who stay active. If leveled enough, they eventually learn an ultimate, an all-powerful spell that has vastly different uses. The Blade Master's Blade Storm is a devastating AoE attack that kills any building or units around him, while the Paladin will raise any fallen teammates from the grave, immediately changing the state of battle. The hero's unique design and voice acting give them a cool edge too. The Tauren Chieftain is this giant animal with an axe that can stun people. The Keeper of the Grove is a centaur that can use trees to attack people. With 4 unique races, excellent combat strategies due to unit design, and the overall power and utility of heroes, this makes Warcraft 3 a top-tier real-time strategy game, one of the best you'll ever find. But the interesting thing for me, however, is that this game, which sold around 1 million copies, went on to have a massive legacy with the games that followed it. Now, what exactly is that legacy? That's what I'm going to be talking about here today.
Again.
I remember being a kid, a couple years after playing Warcraft 3, when I suddenly began seeing commercials for a new Warcraft game. This one would have the title of World of Warcraft. This game uses most of the same assets as Warcraft 3, right down to specific characters, races, locations, lores, and even some spells. It was a spin-off of Warcraft that was released in 2004. And then it happened. World of Warcraft did not become another PC game. It quickly became not just a phenomenon, but the gaming phenomenon. With 5 million subscribers in its first year, WoW quickly became the top of the mountain of PC games. People all around the world were buying this game and jumping into the world of Azeroth. Unlike other video games at the time, which were usually linear console games that you would cycle through after you finished playing them, WoW was a massive online world that players would spend thousands of hours exploring. There was a real hook here. This was one of the first games that people were able to sink much of their lives into. This is just an anecdotal example, of course, but I knew a guy back in 2005 who logged 3 months of game time in a year period, and that was not uncommon. Millions of people, many of which were not your typical gamers in the mid-2000s, were drawn to this massive open world. You didn't really see this much obsession and time for any other game that was being played both before and since. This was also the start of the MMORPG genre, and to this day, WoW stands as the best, most played massive online multiplayer game. This success blew the doors off Warcraft 3 to the point where even by 2005, any discussion of Warcraft was synonymous with World of Warcraft. To this day, WoW remains a phenomenon, one of the most recognizable video game entries in history, with tens of millions of subscribers and a part of people's daily lives everywhere in the world. But it's interesting to note where its roots began, that all this success could be traced back to that other Warcraft game on the PC. But I'm not done yet. There's still one other thing I want to talk about here. Now, going back to Warcraft again, yeah, you played the single-player RTS a bunch and you beat the campaign, but what if I told you there was a whole other side to this game? You go to the menu, you look over and see custom games. Now, these are all games that were community made with the game's editor. Most of these blow away the complexity and gameplay of the single player. You got Footman Frenzy, tower defenses, life simulations, but you also get another game here, Dota. The original Dota was made with the Warcraft map editor in a way that still blows my mind to this day. The first Dota was created by one modder, who ended up making the game open source. This allowed other modders to come in and add various things like new heroes, tweak the maps, and add item recipes. Since Dota was made with the Warcraft 3 map editor, every asset of it had to come from that original game, with hundreds of hard hours recoding and recontextualizing every aspect. They don't even look like the same game anymore. Now this mod, and yes, it was a mod at the time, went on to have a legacy of its own. Dota ended up being the first and definitive multiplayer online battle arena game, or MOBA for short. Even back in 2005, there were multiple sanctioned tournaments from around the world. These days, its successor, Dota 2, is the most lucrative esport ever created, with tens of millions of dollars at stake. Dota can really be credited as a driving force in elevating the esport industry. It also inspired some copycats, like League of Legends, that went on to have their own legacy. In short, the legacy of Dota is that it not only created a genre, much like World of Warcraft did, but it was also a pioneer when it came to mainstream video game competitive online play. The fascinating thing for me, however, is its humble beginnings. All of this phenomenon started from a mod of a 2002 real-time strategy game. I guess that was the whole point of this video. Warcraft 3 remains a standout RTS game from the early 2000s. However, this game's spin-offs, World of Warcraft and Dota, went on to become not only phenomenons and some of the most culturally relevant games of their era, but two titans that ended up becoming pioneers of their own genres, whose successes blew away anything Warcraft 3 had to offer. I'm doing some research, and this sort of thing has never been close to happening again, both before and since. Yeah, games like Devil May Cry were successful spin-offs that kick-started a new franchise, but never before has one game's influence been felt like this. In the gaming pantheon, WoW and Dota stand as two gaming giants, with tens of millions of players and starting two genres that remain an integral part of gaming to this day. All of this success started from just a middling RTS game, and I don't know, I just think that's really interesting. So that's all I had for this video. Once again, I just want to say thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm not sure when my next video is going to be out, but I'm going to try and work on it soon. Once again, thank you all for watching, and take care.